नमस्कार दोस्तों और जय हिंद। आप सभी को स्वागत है इन माय चैनल 1971 वॉर बुक सीरीज। तो दोस्तों, यू हैव सीन माय वीडियोस विद एयर कॉमोडर श्रीधरन, आवर पॉडकास्ट सीरीज, जहां पे उन्होंने अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस इन द 1971 वॉर, बांग्लादेश लिबरेशन वॉर के बारे में बात किया है एज अ पिस्टन इंजन Mi-4 पायलट ऑफ कोर्स। उसके साथ he had also appeared in another video podcast जहां पे उन्होंने अपने experiences of flying a Mi-8 हेलीकॉप्टर के बारे में बात किया है। आज वो बात करने वाले हैं about Indian Air Force using the Mi-17 helicopter and his own experiences in flying the Mi-17। उसके साथ हम जानेंगे थोड़ा डिटेल्स about the Mi-17, the experiences of a pilot in flying it, the capabilities of how the Mi-17 operates and helps in operations of both the Indian Air Force, the ground forces, and also in civil works as well. So let's welcome Air Commodore Shridharan to our program again today.
First of all, thank you sir again for joining, and I would like you to specifically talk today about the Mi-17 aircraft, your area of expertise.
Okay, sure.
So,
Definitely.
as we had decided before, sir, I would like to know a bit about your transition from the Mi-4 in 71 war to the Mi-8 in 72 to the Mi-17. In brief, this transition.
Okay. 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 As I mentioned last time, that I was in the Mi-4 unit from 69 June till September of 72.
72.
Yeah.
Could you give a one-liner about your participation in this Bangladesh Liberation War, sir?
Okay. For me, it was a matter of pride and a great honor to have taken part in the 71 war in Bangladesh for the liberation of Bangladesh. In the Mi-4 helicopter, airlifting all the troops, plus involved in a lot of casualty evacuation and other operations related to the ultimate surrender of the Pakistani troops at Dhaka.
Okay.
On December 16, 1971.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you shifted to the Mi-8 helicopter, right, sir?
Yes. After completing my tenure at Kumbigram in 110 helicopter unit, I was transferred to 118 helicopter unit, which was the first Mi-8 helicopter unit of the Indian Air Force at Guwahati. And I was amongst the first Indian pilots, first pilots from the Indian Air Force to be trained in India, whereas the original about 16 of them had gone to Russia along with the flight engineers plus technicians to get trained actually in the Ukraine, then part of USSR, erstwhile USSR. Yeah. So they had gone, and I was amongst the first few whom I mentioned to you last time that we did a technical course for about 15 days, and then we graduated on to starting up the aircraft and various other activities of the aircraft. And I had about 800 hours of flying, helicopter flying at that time when I came to Mi-8.
Okay.
And it was a very great change for me, because I was flying an aircraft which was primitive of that time, even at that time, piston engine aircraft, Mi-4, and it was good enough for the role it was assigned to, and the role that we carried out in the 71 war of carrying troops and other equipment across the rivers Meghna and to Sylhet. So those operations gave me a lot of confidence and self-confidence and a lot of because of that 800 hours of flying which I had, it became rather easy to to get into the transition of flying a new jet helicopter, that to a twin jet helicopter,
Okay.
Mi-8. Yeah. So that was the phase that I went through. And as I told you, the training, first we do the conversion part, which is about 15, 16 hours of conversion. And after that is the operational training, which we do on the job. And for that, uh, we were sent, I mean, I was sent to Mohanbari,
Acha, acha.
which is Dibrugarh. And there we had a detachment of 3 to 4 aircrafts, depending on the serviceability. And that was meant for the air maintenance of the forward posts in Arunachal Pradesh, both of the army and the civilian.
Acha.
The army was supplied by the ASC. The, the the rations and whatever else we had to carry was supplied by the ASC, and the civilian load was given by an Arunachal Pradesh stores, um, transport and stores department, which was actually part of Arunachal Pradesh's administration. So that they were also stationed at Bari, and they would provide all the load, whether it was free drop load or whether it was para drop load, because this air maintenance basically is about carrying load, that is carrying rations and passengers to far-flung areas in Arunachal Pradesh, where the road connection was not there. In those days, even in, as you know, even in the entire the northeastern states, that is Mizoram, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, and even Meghalaya, were not so well connected by road as they are today.
Now,
So
sir, how
all
many
that.
years of flying in the Mi-8 before your conversion to 17, Mi-17, sir?
From 72 till actually I converted on to Mi-17 in 89. That was about 17 years.
Acha,
Yeah, out of which 4 years I'll say I was in a NDA as an instructor.
acha.
So
Now,
about,
sir,
actually speaking, about 13 to 14 years
acha, acha.
I flew the Mi-8.
Now,
And in
why
those,
did the Indian Air Force decided to choose the Mi-17?
because they needed a more powerful aircraft
Acha.
for higher altitude operations. Because what was happening is that in the, and Mi-17 is a very good aircraft, both in the plains and at high altitude.
Acha.
Now, I mean, there were different versions of the Mi-17. The basic version is what we started in. Then came the 1V, which was a little bit more powerful than the Mi-17, the basic version. And then now we have the V5, which is a very sophisticated aircraft. It's got a glass cockpit and it has very powerful engines. And the difference between the Mi-8 and the Mi-17 was that the Mi-8 was, it used to start with a battery.
Acha.
You know, we had 6 batteries, and the engines was, unless you had an external connection, external battery, which was like a trolley, that was only available at base. And wherever we were operating from, if the detachment headquarters we had, but at a helipad there was no external battery. We had to start with the battery, and it was quite a strain on that, on those batteries, 6 batteries that we had.
Okay.
There were even cases of battery bursts and things like that, because it used to get heated up. And then what happens in winter, like in forward areas of Ladakh and even Arunachal and all, where the temperatures are pretty low, over there these batteries had to be kept in a heated room, you know, which was not available in those days. You know, so these were the problems that we were facing with the Mi-8 that actually got eliminated in the Mi-17, because the Mi-17 had a thing called auxiliary power unit.
Acha.
That was an engine on top, actually like an engine. It had those rotor vanes and all that, and it was above the 2 engines, you know, the APU. And we had to start the APU first. That was a battery start, but for that only 2 batteries were required. And that after that, it started both the engines that we had without any problem, and we never had any problem with the APU. Of course, the odd serviceability problem were there
Acha.
as the life wore on, as the APU life wore on. Otherwise, there was no problem, and it was a great boon to us that we had this auxiliary power unit. Now, you may have seen, you may be familiar that even big aircraft like the Boeings and all of them have an APU which starts up, before they start up, you can hear, before they start the engine, the APU is on, it runs all the services within the aircraft,
Right, right, right.
all the lights and all the various things before the engine starts. So similarly here also, these two engines starting up was no problem at all.
Okay.
And these engines were much more powerful than the. That's why it could carry 4 tons in comparison to 3 tons of the Mi-8. It was designed for flying at higher altitude, but the Russians never told us all this. This all we found out through trial and error only. Because in their books which were all in Russian, which they got translated literally to us, it was very difficult to understand that. But as we got more familiar with since we have been flying Russian aircraft, we got familiar with the ways that they express themselves in these books. We got to know a lot of their secrets, and we were the trial grounds for their helicopters.
Their weapon systems, I would say.
Weapon systems and even the helicopters for transportation and other requirements.
Now, sir, coming to the design of the airframe, the entire ergonomics and the robust technology of the Russians that we have heard about so much, how it made a difference in flying? To be honest, sir, like you have converted, for example, you have just converted from the Mi-8 to the Mi-17. What was the difference in your own flying experience as a pilot?
That was actually speaking, between the Mi-4 and the Mi-8, there was difference of, what should I say, heaven and earth. That much of difference. Because the Mi-8 had, as I told you, it had an autopilot, it had various other aids also, which the Mi-4 didn't have. Even the night flying equipment that we had, that was fitted on board the Mi-4, was very primitive, and they were like, by the time we used it in the war also, we had to really struggle with that, to see correctly, focus, the light levels to focus correctly on the instrument panel. Whereas here it was like a like Diwali compared to that, It's so bright and so beautiful. And the same thing was there. Actually, the airframe of Mi-8 and Mi-17, there is not much of a difference.
Okay.
Only the differences in the engines and that APU. Otherwise, and the tail rotor is fitted on the opposite direction as of the Mi-8.
Okay.
Because
tail rotor
is
in the opposite direction. And the main rotor,
because it's a little bit. Main rotors rotate clockwise. These ones rotate. The one is on the left side and the other one is on the right side of the boom. The tail boom you have seen, no? The Mi-8 tail boom. So on the tail boom, the Mi-8 tail rotor was fitted on the right side, and on the Mi-17 was on the left side. That it went up like that, and then at a right angle it used to go up.
And the main rotor, sir, the position and the location of it, if you could talk about it.
The main rotor is above the engine, sir.
Above the engine.
It's the same. It's similar to the Mi-4 also.
Okay.
Mi-4 also, engine is right in front, but it is above the cockpit, and the same is the case here also. It's above the cockpit. And like to go and inspect the engine, which the technicians used to do, the entry was through the cockpit only. There was a hatch, there's a hatch on just above the roof of the cockpit. That hatch opened and then you could climb up. That was one way to enter. Otherwise, from the side there were some steps which the technicians could access and get on top. And exhaust is on the side, as you may have seen. Mi-8 exhaust on the side.
Now the cockpit.
Both the two engines. And the cockpit was very spacious, very comfortable. compared to the Mi-8, Mi-4. Mi-4 also, I won't say it was uncomfortable, but it was right on top. It was very, you had to climb right on top.
Acha, acha.
Whereas here it is at the level of the cabin only. Whereas that was on top of the cabin,
Okay.
the Mi-4 one.
Acha, acha. Got it.
Yeah.
Now, sir,
Yeah.
could you talk a bit about the engine and the rotor, especially the rotor
Ah.
shaft adjustments? Rotor shaft adjustments and how these were done, and the difference
You see-
between these three helicopters of these rotor shaft adjustments.
No, because see the Mi-4 had the smallest rotor diameter.
Acha, acha.
And Mi-8 was a little more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, considerably more than that. And Mi-17 was almost the same as the Mi-8, the rotor diameter, almost the same.
Okay.
So the rotor diameter was not much of a problem. It gave us enough lift, and that's the reason why all the three aircraft were very good, very hardy aircraft.
Acha.
It did not give us any problems on the rotor side.
Acha, acha.
Never had we faced any problem, but the rotor, as you know, like in a fixed wing, the wings are there. You know everything about aircraft is in the wings.
Right.
So this is a rotary wing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lift bearing surface, which actually keeps the aircraft airborne. So the forward and side, backward and all movements are by the tilt of the main rotor. If you tilt it forward, it moves forward. You tilt it to the left, it goes left. You tilt it back, it goes back.
And the
Unlike
control
a fixed
systems
wing.
of these rotor shaft adjustments that were made, how was the
Yeah.
control system different from in these three helicopters? If you could talk about that.
Control system, actually speaking, if you see the control stick, that is the cyclic stick,
No, I'm talking
was
about
almost the
rotors,
same.
The rotor shaft
Ah.
adjustments, those things.
Rotor actually, rotor shaft is in the center, where the right in the center of the boom only,
Mm-hmm.
Center of the aircraft. That's the center of the aircraft. I mean, of the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
And above that is the two engines, and then on top of that there's a main gearbox of the main rotor.
Acha.
So that actually it's because whichever, depending on the rotor diameter, it controls all. I mean, there are pitch changing mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly for the tail rotor, which is actually balancing the torque of the engine. So
Right.
that is what gives us the directional control, the tail rotor. Like you have rudders in a fixed wing, this tail rotor is like our rudder.
Okay.
And if you have a tail rotor failure, the aircraft just goes round and round. Nothing you can do.
And it's gone. Yeah.
It's finished. It's out of control after that. If you have a complete tail rotor failure, partial tail rotor failure, you can still land with forward speed.
Acha. Now,
But complete tail, and whereas if suppose you have an engine failure, if you have single, I mean in Mi-4, when you had engine failure, you had no second engine, no, you had to land.
mm-hmm.
So the main rotors are the ones that is your lifeline, The main rotor RPM has to be maintained, and that is maintained by the usage of the collective. When you come up on the collective, main rotor RPM will drop. If you go down, main rotor RPM will increase. So that main rotor RPM you have to control it with the with the collective and cyclic, which are the controls. The cyclic is the one for like a stick in a fixed wing, and it goes forward, sideways, all that. Whereas the collective is for going up and down, and it has a trimmer on it, on the cyclic, on the collective, and similarly there's a trimmer to trim off the loads on the cyclic. On the collective also there is a trimmer, and the on the cyclic also. Mainly it's on the cyclic. Collective is mainly you have a switch for it to be released to go up and down.
Acha.
It's like that.
And how swift were the repairs of the rotor blades if there was any damage?
You see, See, the aircraft is subject to lot of servicing schedules,
Acha.
and every day there is a servicing schedule. For daily inspection, you check up the technician does the firstly the technician does all the checks. After that, he hands over the aircraft to us, and we do an external check to see there are certain points which have to be checked on the fuselage, on the tail rotor, on the main rotor, on the front perspex. All that we go to check every day. This is a daily inspection, and you're supposed to do. Pilot is supposed to do an external check, whether it was Mi-4, Mi-8, or Mi-17 didn't matter. That is a part of the check.
Okay.
Then we have certain checks before starting. Then there are certain checks before starting engine. Then certain checks when one engine is started.
Acha.
That is in case of Mi-8 and Mi-17. Then some more checks after the second engine start. So then actually in the other case, what used to happen in the Mi-4, Mi-4 had a thing called a same for the main gearbox is a reductor system. So you had once you start the engine, the rotors are not engaged. Unlike in the Mi-8 and Mi-17, the rotors are automatically engaged. Once the engine starts, you see the rotors rotating. Whereas in the Mi-4, the engine will be started, then you have to engage the rotors.
Acha.
And there are four positions. Yeah, you have four positions in which the rotors are engaged. And after you engage that, then you open full throttle. That means the full throttle of the engine. And that gives you full throttle RPM for the main rotor. The main rotor RPM is separate because that is your lifeline. If you drop your main rotor RPM,
Yeah.
you are gone. You have to keep it always full
Acha.
till you land. Till you land and you're switching off, then only can you close the throttle and close the RPM.
Now, sir, I would come to a special feature of the Mi-17, that is night flying. Could you-
Yeah.
As you must have flown this aircraft at night, how was your
Yeah.
experience and why did you
See,
compare it with Diwali, sir? If you could talk a bit about that.
No, because the lights are so good,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish you could have come and seen one of the cockpits, and especially that today's V5 cockpit
Mm-hmm.
is a delight, for a pilot,
Mm-hmm.
and also for an engineer because he does all his checks, everything with the help of the various lights which are there. So
Right.
that's why I said it's Diwali compared to what Mi-4 was, those UVL lights.
Acha, acha.
Ultraviolet lights which you have to adjust, and sometimes they just become very dim, and some because they due to age and wear and tear.
Right there, right.
Whereas here there is no wear and tear. Everything is like fixed on all. Like you see in fixed wing aircraft, you see the lights. You must have seen a cockpit,
Mm-hmm.
aircraft cockpit. It's similar to that, very much similar. And the view of a Mi-8 or Mi-17, the cockpit view is fantastic. And so is, I won't say it isn't so with the Mi-4, but the Mi-4, since being on top, it had the engine obstruction in front. Whereas here there are no obstruction. You're completely,
Completely
free to. Yeah, your view is fantastic.
Now,
So,
pilot,
that-
I would come to the
Yeah.
crew composition of the Mi-17.
Yeah, Mi-17, like the Mi-8, has two pilots, one engineer, and one gunner.
Okay.
Gunner is actually there's a gunner in the Mi-8 also.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll give you the armament thing of configuration of both Mi-8 and Mi-17.
Okay.
Now Mi-8 has got, I told you it has rockets.
Mm-hmm.
It can fire 192 rockets. So that is like 96 rockets on either. There's 3 pods on one side, 3 pods on the left side, 3 pods on the right side.
Acha.
In each pod there are 16 rockets.
Okay.
Okay, 16. So 16 into 6 is 96.
Mm-hmm.
And that there are actually 32. 16 can be fired at one time and 16 at another time, like that. This is all by selection, which you can select from your cockpit. You can fire one rocket at a time also.
Okay.
But that selection has to be a preset in the cockpit. That's the technicians do that. Armament, we have armament technicians. They come and load. They fit the rockets, the rocket pods, and then they load up the aircraft with those rockets. Now the rockets which are used by Mi-8 are 57 mm,
Acha.
and the rockets which are used by Mi-17 are 80 mm.
Okay.
So you can't carry so many rockets in a Mi-17 as you can carry in a Mi-8.
Okay.
Mi-8 can carry more rockets,
But
but the rockets are more
these
the
are powerful rockets
sir?
carried by the Mi-17.
Yeah, 57 is powerful enough.
Okay.
It can damage armor also.
Acha, acha, acha.
Yeah, so they are quite powerful. So what we go to the range to fire, we have a firing range. We have targets like they have targets for fighter aircraft. Similar kind of targets are there for us, and we have this gun sight, which is actually a hydraulic. What should I say? Gyro stabilized gun sight. That is fitted like this. Like suppose I'm sitting in the cockpit. Stick is here, and on the stick is the firing pin, firing button,
Acha, acha.
which is here. And the gun sight is here. Gun sight is it's exactly like you have a gun sight for normal weapons, no?
Ha, 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 ha.
With the that.
But these kind of sights, right, sir?
Yeah,
This
exactly.
kind of. Okay.
That kind of a sight. And it has its markings are there, and you can set it and you can adjust your seat accordingly. And seat can go up and down, your pilot's seat.
Okay.
And it can only be operated by the captain of the aircraft. Not co-pilot doesn't have any control over the cockpit.
Acha, acha.
Yeah.
Now, sir, to the weapon systems.
Apart from these rockets which I told you, 80 mm and 57 mm, they also on the portholes, of the cabin, that is the passenger cabin. You can open that, and on each of them you can fit a AK-47.
AK-47.
Yeah. So if suppose troops are going, suppose you're carrying troops into action, into say a battlefield, so they can already be sitting at that gun point, So there are 6 such stations, 3 on either side,
Okay.
And apart from that, at the back we can fit an LMG also.
Acha, acha.
And you open that thing at the back, as I told you, the clamshell door, like in the Mi-4, Mi-8, Mi-17, all can be removed.
Acha.
That has to be removed when we do air maintenance operations, because the rollers are fitted on the floor there, and the load is on top of that. If it's free drop, means there are no parachutes, but those are heavy. I mean, those loads have to be dropped at a lower altitude, because those things can burst. If the gunny bags burst, then all the ration and all is gone. So we have to drop it from a lower altitude. Means about 40 to 50, maybe even lesser, 20 to 30 meters. And there are, the dropping zones are there in each helipad of army and even the civil. They have helipad and dropping zones which cater for both the para-drop as well as free drop. And we have to cater for the wind component also, when we are dropping.
Okay.
If we are dropping, and we have to drop it into wind. All operations, whether takeoff, landing, everything has to be into wind. If we are in tailwind, then we are in trouble. Because the aircraft floats and will not land, It will tend to just float and go away. So wind is a very big aspect in flying helicopters. And sometimes the valleys are very narrow, and there are a lot of winds which it's like a what should I say, like a whirlpool type,
Whirlwind, I would say.
It's almost like circular type. So then we are in trouble,
The aircraft will shake and vibrate a lot.
When you are coming into land, it does shake just before touchdown. It vibrates because we are at full power. And we can do different types of landings. We can do no over landing, we can do running landing, all those types, depending on the size and length of the helipad.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have a big runway, there's no problem. You can land and keep rolling. There's no problem at all because we have two nose wheel and two main wheels.
Acha.
So you can roll even on the nose wheel
Now, sir, I would like to
without
know
any.
a bit more, like some technical information, like how much
Like
load can it carry, sir? Load and
it can carry. As I told you, depending on the altitude and depending on the temperature.
mm-hmm.
Like as you go higher, the temperature. So you with the lower temperature, we can carry more load.
Acha,
But
acha.
with that comes the other aspect that you are going higher in altitude. So the as you go higher, the air becomes rarefied.
Uh-huh.
So therefore you need more power.
Mm-hmm.
So two aspects are there. One aspect that if temperature is low, you get more power. But when the height is more, that reduces the power. So you have to find a balance of that. So like when we go to say like base camp, like I given a base camp in Siachen,
Mm-hmm.
there we can carry up to about 2.5 tons.
2.5 tons.
Yeah, that is about 25 passengers.
Okay.
You can take 1 ton in 100 kgs as and multiply by 100. 2.5 tons multiplied by 100 is 2,500 kg,
Right, right.
and you can carry about 25 passengers.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go higher than that, this is with there are certain fuel configuration you have to have. Because fuel also is weight, no?
Mm-hmm.
So like suppose it is only like from Thois to base camp, is flying time is about half an hour,
Okay.
25 to 30 minutes. So for that, and then fuel is available at base camp.
Mm-hmm.
It is available in barrels. We refuel in barrels over there. There are no bowsers over there,
Okay.
and there are. I don't know now, but in the times when I used to operate, it was still with barrels only.
Okay.
So I operated till about 2002, till 2002. So I can tell you till then. But now maybe there are bowsers there. So bowser refueling is very much easier. But barrel refueling is you got to start one thing called as a Sudan pump. I don't know if there.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, that is what even in the war we use that.
Uh-huh.
It is like a generator, like those, like we used to have it at home also,
Mm-hmm.
You pull like that Honda ka generator,
Mm-hmm.
you pull it with a string
Yeah, yeah.
and it
Pull
starts,
and
and then you have to adjust. The carburetor there,
Right, right.
for the fuel. It is run on fuel only, petrol only, and then you put one stick, one big pipe into the barrel,
Mm-hmm.
and that you open that, and then you open the barrel. Before that, they test the barrel whether it has got any water content and all that.
Acha.
That all is done by the technician.
Okay.
So we refuel like that. So for that, we carry a certain amount of fuel.
Acha.
So for 30 minutes of flying, we generally used to carry about 800 meters of fuel,
Acha.
which is enough. I mean, for suppose there is bad weather and all that, and we have to divert somewhere, we have enough fuel for diversion.
Acha.
So like that, there is a certain amount of fuel and load configuration,
So at
and
higher
that all
altitudes,
is that
you can't
higher altitude, less load.
less load.
So like when we go to forward areas and drop,
Mm-hmm.
those are one of the posts right in front. It is known as Siala.
Okay.
That is in the northern glacier,
Mm-hmm.
that is camp 5 of the glacier. You start from camp 1, 2, 3 like that. 1, 2, 3 at lower altitude, we don't drop over there. But those are camps for these army troops to go ahead right up to the middle of the glacier is Kumar.
Acha.
There's a post called Kumar. So there also we used to drop in Kumar. So there we used to drop about, you can say about 1.5 tons. But as we reach the end of the glacier, that's why the height being that much, we used to carry about 1 ton.
Acha.
800 kgs to 1 ton. That's all. So that much load reduces. But then we do more sorties,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to carry more fuel because that is at the furthest point of the
Right,
glacier.
right.
The gunner who is with us, he is the load master,
Mm-hmm.
load master in the sense he does the loading of the aircraft and he knows how much load and he has all the figures in with him and
Mm-hmm.
he gives it to the pilot also for his reference, the pilots too and the engineer also.
Mm-hmm.
But engineer is only monitoring the instruments, all the parameters of the engines and the main rotor, all that he monitors. And he also puts on the heater because there it's freezing cold.
Mm-hmm.
So the engine, I forgot to tell you, it has a heater
Mm-hmm.
which is on the right side of the cabin.
Acha.
Outside, it's on the outside. The
Mm.
fuel tanks are also on the outside.
Acha.
There are two fuel tanks, outboard tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is one tank right on top.
Mm-hmm.
That's next to the engine. That's in the main gearbox cabin on top, and that is the service tank. That's called the service tank, and these are all outboard tanks too. And then we can also carry another auxiliary tank inside. So with that, with the full fuel capacity, we can fly for 4.5 hours.
Acha.
Yeah, with a speed of 250 kilometers an hour. That's the max speed. But generally, the speed is around 230 to 240. So we take it as 4 kilometers a minute.
Okay.
That's a thumb rule for us.
Now,
And
sir.
we have also, and we also have a navigation system in the sense there is a GPS.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have very sophisticated GPS. When I was flying, the GPS was the very basic one.
Acha.
And we had to do all map reading like in Mi-4 we had to do it manually
Acha. Acha.
and
Acha.
we had to do manually and that we had other aids which were there like radio compass that gives you, but those things have to have some equipment on ground to show us the direction. Like suppose we are going to you are coming to Pune from anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
so there is a radio center over here which is transmitting on certain frequency.
Acha.
So we can tune onto that frequency and home onto it. Similarly, that ground station can give us some homing.
Mm-hmm.
So once we transmit, when he sees the on the meter, on the screen, whatever direction we are coming from, he can tell us that.
Acha.
But
Acha.
when you are flying in the hills, we have nothing.
Nothing. Right.
No aids at all. We are on our own, and those things have not changed very much today. Even with the glass cockpit, also. But what happens is that in all these places, like on the glacier and all, there is no requirement of navigation. Once you fly there, as I told you, even in Mizoram and Nagar and all, we fly so much up and down that we are very familiar with them. We know the way, we can almost smell our way through.
That's the thing, sir. I mean, the experience of the pilot
Yeah.
will matter.
Yeah.
No matter how many
Yeah.
equipment you have. Yeah.
Yeah, equipment doesn't matter, that's what you can have as many sophisticated equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make some basic mistakes, as was made by the CDS captain when he was flying the CDS.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a mistake like that and you take try to take a shortcut and not follow the procedures which are time tested, those procedures are time tested and
Understood, right.
because of experience of various pilots, of thousands of hours of experience, and of flying in those terrain and those kind of flight conditions,
Mm-hmm.
which are very important. The flight conditions are very important. Like say that guy was going from Sulur to from Coimbatore to Wellington. If the weather was absolutely clear, he would have just with his eyes closed, he would have reached. But then when the clouds come in and the clouds are sitting on the hillside, then it's a different ball game. Then you're asking for weather at the destination.
Mhm.
Destination meaning like Wellington. You go to ask him. Okay, he will tell you on the RT that sir, it is so much visibility is that, and he can only tell you because he is sitting inside that valley.
Mm-hmm.
He can't see very much around. So what from his position he sees, he tells you. So you know from experience, because you have gone so many times up and down, you know that if that particular hill is clear at this time, I will be able to make it. You
Got
know,
it.
if it is covered with cloud, if it is sitting on top of trees, don't go. Just turn back, give a sabat, salute, and go back to Coimbatore. Tell the CDS to go by road. That is, or even if he is the Prime Minister, please go by road, sir. We cannot go. This is our limitation.
Hmm.
Now the limitation has come to such an extent that with this night vision goggles being available now and the helicopter being cleared for night operation, full night operation.
Mm-hmm.
So they tell you to now that, and that's what I came to know from my colleagues, my juniors who are there, that now Prime Minister, President all fly at night also in helicopters,
Helicopter.
going to helipads which have got lights and all. But you go there. But in our time, we only flew up to sunset,
Sunset, right?
or maybe at most half an hour after sunset.
Hmm.
We never went at night. But today, the helicopters are all capable of night flying,
Night flying.
fully capable. I mean, only Mi-17 there.
Mm-hmm.
It's fully capable of night operations. So they are operating at night. So that's how I told you that even in like now searching for the for the terrorists, they can do it at night also.
Now coming to the
It's
load,
really
sir,
not
how could you?
Ah.
How was the load? I mean, put inside the helicopter, and how were they dropped? The techniques
Ah,
involved,
okay, I'll tell you. We
including
had
the human
two.
passengers. I would like to know a bit.
Yeah. You see, the passengers sit on the side.
Mm-hmm.
If we are taking only passengers, then there is no need of those rollers at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then only the seats are there. They sit in those bucket seats are there. They will sit on the side.
Okay.
And as I said, you can carry from 25 to 30 passengers in
Easily.
Mi-17. Mi-17, quite comfortably.
Acha.
You can carry, and you have I told you, you got to have a mix of load
Mm-hmm.
depending on height and depending on the fuel configuration. These configurations have to be worked out before, and it's already there. All those uh, ready reckoners are available with the gunner. You
Acha.
just have to ask him, we are going to so and so place, how much load can we carry?
Hmm.
So he'll tell you, sir, you can carry so much, you have to carry so much of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So all that is done by the technicians. He refuels the aircraft, keeps everything ready. You go, there's a Form 700 in which you go and check how much fuel is there, what is the serviceability state of the aircraft. All that is mentioned in that Form 700. That is like a history of that helicopter. It will have the aircraft number, engine number, just like you have in cars also. Same kind of, it's a diary of that car, of that helicopter. And all the hours that are flown by us are entered in that. So that's how you know that you can fly. The life of the airframe and engine is actually airframe, not the engine. Engine has less. Engine has only 500 hours,
Mm-hmm.
but the airframe has 1,000 hours.
1,000 hours. Acha.
So it goes for overall only after 1,000 hours. Whereas the engine have to be changed after 500 hours or 600 hours. There are certain limitations for engines. And engines have to be constantly checked. All their, that engines are very delicate. No matter that two jet engines, they are very delicate. So
Yeah.
they have to keep on checking how much is the wear and tear on various blades. Those blades, compressor blades are there, various blades are there. So those are all checked by the technician. Pilot has nothing to do with all that. He only believes what the technician has done. He has got a notebook, a checklist. He goes and does all the checks. Further to that, the flight engineer goes and does his check.
Mm-hmm.
And pilot only sees for external. He doesn't go and check engine, what is there in the engine. And, that kind of thing is not done by the pilot. That is done by the technician.
Acha. Got it.
Similarly, even in commercial aircraft, you never see the pilot going inside the engine and all that. Those are done by technicians. Now I told you how the passengers sit on either side.
Mm-hmm.
So that is loaded like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like when we are doing air maintenance, I told you that clamshell door is removed. The one at the back.
Right.
That is removed. And also they remove the auxiliary tank, which I told you It gives you 4.5 hours of flying.
Right, right.
3 hours is, that one has got 1.5 hours capacity. That is inside, 500 liters, which is inside the cabin. That has to be removed because if you fit that, passengers will be reduced because that takes up space, that much of space. Then the passengers, of course, you can take them, but they won't have seats to sit on.
Acha, acha.
So like, I mean, if it's a commercial flight, you cannot take them, but because troops, we can make them sit on the floor also
Right,
and
right,
take
right.
them.
Yeah,
So they
you
have
can
to be
actually
hardy.
have some medical teams as well set up their things
No,
inside the
no,
helicopter.
so that is a different configuration.
Acha, acha.
That is a stretcher configuration. If suppose you have to bring casualties, suppose
Uh-huh.
I was told there are 12 casualties to come and they're all lying casualties.
Okay.
Huh? So then we have to fix that, the stretcher configuration. They are fitted one on top of the other, like 4 stretchers in a row. You can carry 12 stretchers.
Acha.
So 12 lying casualties you can bring, or any number of sitting casualties. Any number meaning whatever is the load for that particular helipad.
Helipad, right.
Up to 25, 20, whatever the number. Those are sitting casualties. But lying, or we have a restriction because the stretcher is there.
Hmm.
And you can't, I mean, in terms of battle casualty, we don't bother. Then we just come in.
Come in and take everybody, yeah.
Take everybody, whatever maximum you can. But in peacetime, we don't do that kind of thing. Then they are not treated like cattle. They're treated like human beings.
Right.
So,
Now the other kind
no,
of load.
it's a very tough job. I mean, the tough job, I mean, talking about this casualty evacuation. And that gives us the maximum sense of satisfaction.
Hmm.
When we are evacuating some battle casualty,
Mm-hmm.
who has come from the forward area. The Chetaks or cheetahs have brought them because in those areas on the glacier we cannot land. Only the only cheetah can land. There is no Chetak. Only cheetah can land.
land.
Now I think ALH is also landing on the glacier. So in our times only cheetah used to land. They'll bring the casualty to the base camp, and from base camp whatever the casualties, and they have a chota medical station over there, not a hospital. The hospital, it's called, I've forgotten the name. It's like a detachment of the hospital. The hospital is at Troyes, the place called Hundar.
Okay.
There, they've got full operation table, everything is there. Just like a regular hospital. It is a regular hospital. I mean, facilities available there are as good as any hospital anywhere. That kind of, because battle casualties, can be very serious.
Right.
They can have, bullet wounds and all kinds of wounds.
Right. Including
Yeah.
frostbite
So for that,
cases. Yeah.
yeah, for those are the maximum, those because of the weather. Because beyond the base camp, it is all snow, snowbound throughout the year. And these people, of course, they have the battle training, battle inoculation school at base camp. They train them there, and then they are sent on their forward travel to all the posts.
Right.
And they go in detached, I mean, short, what should I say, I don't know, squads or whatever they call it in the army. They go in platoons type,
Platoon.
small platoon.
Right. Platoon or section.
And-
Yeah.
Yeah, section and platoon. Section mainly. So they go in section and they are all tied with, interconnected with ropes because they can, if one fellow goes, the other chap will pull him up, if suppose he gets into a crevice or some hole in the snow. So he has to be rescued. So it's a tough job to go. I mean, the way they go up to these posts, it's really a Herculean task. Hats off to the army. They live over there, and the food that you eat there, it becomes, because it's so cold, everything becomes very hard. So without that fire and the bukhari, they are very much handicapped. You must have heard from army chaps about the bukhari and
Right.
all that, at higher altitude.
Mm-hmm.
We also have Bukharis at Thois where our base is.
Mm-hmm.
There also, we are in our mess, we have a Bukhari, which is on whenever we are there because it's really cold. Though we have these, when I initially operated on this Ladakh area, we used to wear only coat parka.
Acha,
You've seen
acha.
coat parka?
No, no, no.
Uh,
No, I
Coat
haven't.
parka is just an ordinary coat with some fur lining inside,
Acha, acha.
and it has a hood also with a fur lining.
Uh-huh.
That was, and we had snow boots which were like gum boots type.
Gumboots, right.
It was like gum boots, but a little thinner than that. But it protected us from the snow. But what happens is in the snow, if any water gets inside your socks, then you're like sunk.
Yeah.
You can't allow water. These gum boots, which are their snow boots, they are waterproof.
Hmm.
Water doesn't get it. But later on, when I started operating, when I took over this unit, which I didn't tell you about, that 153 was the unit I commanded first, Mi-17. I raised that unit.
Acha, acha.
So that from scratch I raised the unit, and we did our detachment at Thois, and mainly it was for base camp and beyond. And there is another sector called Sub-Sector North. Apart
Okay.
from Siachen Glacier, there is another sector which is manned by Ladakh Scouts.
Acha.
Ladakh Scouts are the ones. They are the
They are
kingpins
there.
of the.
Yeah.
Ah,
They are the ones
they rule
always
the.
there. Yeah.
They rule that place. And they have been there for
And they are
ages.
locals, I think. Some of them are also
Yeah,
locals. Yeah.
yeah. They are all Ladakhis only,
Ladakis, right.
and they are very tough. I mean, there is a unit in Thois which has posts all over. So this subsector north has got the post which for us was the toughest post to land it, because that was at 4.3 kilometers, 4.5 kilometers. One post was called Gapsham and the other post was called Chumtash. So here we had to use auxiliary power to take off and to land, which is not there in today's Mi-17 V5. You cannot use that auxiliary power, but it has extra power in the engine as such.
Acha, acha.
Whereas in the case of the Mi-17 1V, which I had flown, that there are two levers which actually used for, if suppose you have an engine failure,
Mm-hmm.
each engine has got a individual engine lever, which is on the right side of the control column.
Okay.
This collective. So those have to be operated individually when if you have an engine failure.
Acha.
You have to get that engine which has failed has to be put at minimum, because it should not give more drag to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the engine which is live, that has to be at full power, so that you could land with that engine comfortably. And you can fly for about 15-20 minutes. Can't fly for more than that. At that power rating, you will consume a lot of fuel. So in cases of engine failure, you have to put the helicopter down as quickly
As
as
soon as
possible.
possible. Right.
As soon as possible. Yeah. The same in the Mi-8 also, it was like that.
Mhm.
These engine levers were there also. But here, like in the Mi-8, you couldn't use that for auxiliary extra power. It didn't have that. It was only for in case of engine failure that you could use those levers. Whereas in case of Mi-17,
Mhm.
you can use it to generate more power, because the Mi-17 engine is much more powerful than the Mi-8. Mi-8 was 1500 horsepower, that is 1750.
Okay.
So that much of difference. Yeah. So and this present one is even more, and it has an electronic governor which doesn't allow you to use those levers for extra power. It allows you to use that lever in case of engine failure,
Mhm.
but not in case of landing at those higher altitudes. You have to use the power which is generated by the engine.
Acha.
Yeah. So there, it was tricky. Like Gapsham, the post is very close to DBO, Daulat Beg Aldi.
Okay.
Just one ridge away was Daulat Beg Aldi.
Acha, acha.
I have overflown that. I didn't land there, but this Gapsham is at the just next to Daulat Beg Aldi.
Okay.
There's one ridge between that and that.
Acha, acha.
That you must have heard of. That AN-32 also lands there. Developed with all. That's the last advanced landing ground of India.
That's mostly used
On
by
the
the Air Force.
Yeah, Air Force only Air Force. And Army, of course. Army helicopters go there. That's all.
Now, sir, how
Otherwise,
coming back to the load part?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did you drop the loads? I mean, the non-passengers.
No,
Yeah.
no, I said that part I didn't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have on the floor of the aircraft, you have actually like these rollers we have got from old packet aircraft.
Acha, acha.
They were made for the packets. The packets used to drop,
Mhm.
And same in Ladakh and all, they used to land and drop. Both used
I
to be
think
there.
packets were specially used for paratrooping.
Yeah, it was actually meant for paratrooping, but also for landing and dropping in forward areas of Ladakh especially.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much in Arunachal and all, they didn't operate.
Okay.
Arunachal and all were operated by caribous.
Caribous. Okay.
Ah. So they also had this rollers, and even Dakota had these rollers,
Okay.
for their load.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly it was in packets and in caribou. And these rollers, the load was put on something known as skid board.
Skid board. Acha.
Yeah, SIKT, skid board.
Mm-hmm.
So on that skid board, if suppose it was free drop, they were put on that only. And if it was a para drop, on top of that, whatever load was there, they used to keep a parachute, which was all this done by the that loading party, which is from ASC or from the local that I told you, ADST. If it was like in the east,
Mm-hmm.
Arunachal Pradesh, those supply and transport fellows, they were fully trained in this, and they would bring the load already nicely packed and kept like that, and we just had to inspect it to see if it is properly tied and all that. That is the job of the gunner. He checks the load before once it is loaded in the aircraft, and then he checks the movement of that on the roller. It has to, because what happens is that when we go into suppose we are going into land a free drop first. Normally we do the free drop first because that's at we do the para drop first because that's at a higher altitude.
Mm-hmm.
So you come at about 60 to 70 meters, and you go to assess the wind, all those factors.
You are hovering.
Or how much the parachute will drift, all that is there.
Acha, acha.
So you have to have a running commentary with the gunner.
Acha, acha.
And you have to
And
tell
you are
him,
hovering at the same time.
no, not hovering, you're moving forward.
Acha, acha, acha.
You're moving forward.
Okay.
At a certain speed, not very fast. We are normally at about 60 to 70 kilometers
Okay.
for a para drop, because the parachute should not tear off with your speed. So you have to maintain that speed,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to maintain this similar thing you have to do in the fly pass also, which you because there the flag gets torn.
Acha, acha.
If you go too fast, the flag you've seen is lowered when we do the national flag and all, or
Yes,
Republic Day and all
right,
that.
right.
So we have to keep it at a lower speed, around 60, and also the flag shouldn't get wrapped around. If it's too slow, it gets wrapped around.
Right, right.
So you have to. It's a very
Maintain that
tricky
speed,
thing. This.
Right.
Yeah, this maintaining that flag straight is a very tricky thing.
Hmm.
Because it looks very nice as you're watching it from the ground. Oh, ये तो बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है. But in the aircraft, it is a very tricky part. So that lot of skill is required, especially this para drop, as I told you. So when you come in at that speed, and there is a distance between that DZ is marked,
Mm-hmm.
that DZ means the dropping zone is marked by the army, and it is marked in the direction of the wind. So it is that in the wind, meaning that the headwind, that you get a headwind component for dropping. So you have to anticipate where you will tell that gunner now. When you say now, then he releases the load.
Acha.
Means the load is kept and it's blocked with a wedge,
Acha, acha.
on the roller.
Uh-huh.
So two chaps are there. One chap on one roller which is this side on the left side and another roller is on the right side. Set of rollers are there. So that load starts moving back and then the center of gravity also changes. No? So you have to trim and all that is the job of the pilot. Keep the aircraft steady and stable. And then as you release the load, then you say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, when you say now, he releases it, and then the squad from the helicopter is gone. Center of gravity has changed because load has shifted, no? And that load has gone out, so that much load is less in your helicopter, no?
Right, right.
So at each time, two sets of parachute, one on the left side, one on the right, go out.
Okay.
So that goes and it settles down on the DZ. Then you do a turn, and then you see, oh, there it is. And then that time tells you, sir, on the DZ, hang on. Or he said, sir, it is 50 meters out, and it is gone. And that problem is of the army chaps on the ground.
Right, right.
They have to go and retrieve the load from there. All their, even their, we drop even goats, that is called meat on hoof, MOH.
In the same way.
So that is also, that chicken, all those things, they have, chicken is in the basket. So that, then other attas and rice and all that, they are in gunny bags, But those are solid, they take the drop also, they don't burst. Because they're quite, there's 4 or 5 gunny sacks holding that one, say about 50 kgs of atta, 50 kgs of rice, like that. So the drop is done like that. First para and then the free drop, and then when the aircraft is empty, if the helipad is fit to land, you can land there and you can carry some troops back or whatever load they have back. They want to send back some old parachutes or some skid boards or whatever for they can be recycled, These parachutes after they can be repacked by the people, the agency, whichever the agency that is there, the army or the ADSC or whoever, civilian people, whoever are there. They repack it and they give it back to us again for further use. And the troops, if there are anyone going on chutti and all that, we take them. Like on the glacier, there is no such thing. Glacier mein koi nahi hai. Only from base camp we can take. Base glacier only cheetah can carry. Now of course ALH can carry a little bit more than cheetah, but that otherwise Mi-17 cannot bring any load back because it's only dropping. There is one place called FLB, but that is not on. That's on the side of the glacier. It's a forward landing base. So that is the only place where we can land on the glacier, and that is actually, I can say, it is to the east of the main glacier.
Okay.
It used to be what, I'll tell you the history of that. That was earlier, that's how all the disputes started, How we came to know the Pakistani fellows were loafing around there. Mountaineering expeditions, that was their base camp thing.
Okay.
This FLB, which we call FLB, Forward Landing Base, was the base camp of mountaineering expedition. And that was the movement over there, unusual movement of Pakistani fellows, was noticed by Brigadier, that time Brigadier. He was not Brigadier, he was Colonel Kumar. And that, after him is named that post in the center, Kumar. After that, Colonel Kumar. He was a mountaineer himself and a wonderful person. So he was, I think, principal of Himalayan Mountaineering Institute. He was a very renowned man, and glacier was actually his brainchild. He said that the Pakistan can come in and they can just walk through Ladakh. If they move in, if they come to base camp, they just go through. So since then we said no, Pakistan cannot come beyond this NJ, whatever 42 or whatever the position was. So we didn't allow them to come.
Now, sir, coming
So
to
like
the
that.
most interesting part of what we see normally in Bollywood, that is jumping off from helicopters to grappling down, which is done by the army guys.
Yeah,
How?
so that actually, no, we train with them.
Acha, acha.
This, for this rappelling,
Hmm.
like heliborne SHBO, special heliborne operations, this rappelling is also done with training with these para commandos.
Acha, acha.
Basically, it's more with para commandos. Like my unit, which was 153, was affiliated with 9 paras, which is at Udhampur. We were at Udhampur only.
Acha, acha, acha.
Uh-huh.
Nine
So
para.
9 paras was
Yeah.
affiliated to us.
Acha, acha.
So they come for training, and we have this heliborne training. We train pilots also on how to, hover, what height to hover, where can they start grappling down, and while moving forward, you got to maintain a certain speed. Not similarly like in the drop, you cannot go very too fast. Then that thing will start shaking too much the rope,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you come to a hover, it has to come in a particular way,
Mm-hmm.
you got to come in a gradual way to a hover so that they can grapple down at a stationary position. They do it even while helicopter is moving also as it's coming down. When the speed is not very high, they can jump off, and they even jump off from the cabin also.
Acha, acha,
This
acha.
rope is one way, and there are rope ladders also which are
Mm-hmm.
attached down to the cabin from
They
there
can
going
just
down.
come down. Yeah.
Come down, yeah. But
Okay.
this all, there's a lot of specialized training for this, which is done at the base by the unit and the pilots, the troops and the gunner and the gunners.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly the gunners are the ones
Covering that.
who are associated with this. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
the engineer is only in the cabin.
Right.
He is only monitoring the instruments and checking everything is normal.
Now, sir, again coming to the pilot and his cockpit, could you talk a
Yeah.
bit about the control systems on the pilot's
Uh,
cockpit's dashboard and how
uh,
the autopilot management was done and how did you shuffle with it, of course?
uh.
If you could talk about that, sir.
Now you see the autopilot in this case. I don't know. I'm not very
Mm-hmm.
certain about the one in the latest Mi-17 V5,
Mm-hmm.
which has the glass cockpit.
Acha, acha.
I'm not very conversant with that autopilot,
Mm-hmm.
because that I believe is coupled with the navigation system.
Acha.
Whereas in the ones which I flew, they were not coupled. We had a navigation system. I mean, you can what should I say? You can engage all the 3 channels, 4 channels which are there. The pitch and the pitch and roll and the direction. All 3 channels you can engage, and the aircraft will fly straight and level. It can climb also. Then you keep the pitch, the not the pitch, the collective one. You keep that off, and aircraft can climb. Then there are knobs on the autopilot panel which you can move. There are indicators on the autopilot panel, which you can, if you want to turn, you can do that. You can gently give it a turn, and it can come back to straight and level. It can maintain at certain turning angle, and you can turn on to certain headings, which are there on the compass.
Okay.
You go by the compass only, and then once you set a certain direction, suppose you are going from Udhampur to Delhi,
Mm-hmm.
then you go to fly at there are certain reporting points. So you set it according to those reporting points. From Udhampur to Jammu, and then from Jammu to Pathankot, like that. You go in stages, and you can fly totally on that autopilot, meaning engage the channels, and you can keep on resetting it. But the navigation you have to do yourself. You go to like correction. Suppose you want to make a wind correction or some correction on the course correction. Like you're going in a direction 090, you want to come to 100. You can turn it. You can't turn very major directions, but you can turn about 5 to 10 degrees, minor change. And that's how you're supposed to do that. If you want to make a major change, then you disengage the direction channel and the pitch channel, and only keep that one channel, as I told you, that pitch and roll wala, that is permanently engaged.
Got it.
So if you disengage that, then it is like autopilot failure.
Yeah. Then you have to go back to manual. Yeah.
Then you have to fly manual. But that is permanently engaged, so there is no problem, and that doesn't fail. It's pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay. Now,
Only
sir,
if as I said, only if the main hydraulic system fails, that fails.
Acha.
And if both hydraulic system fails, then you say your prayers.
Okay.
Because there is, like tail rotor failure, there is no more,
No more. You
there is
have
no
to-
escape,
you are
no
going
escape.
down.
You're just going down like a stone. Or same like if suppose you have a main gearbox failure, then the aircraft will, that means that gearbox which is which is connected to the engine, no? If it gets disengaged totally, then you're like coming down like a stone.
Like, sir, we have seen in the movies regarding the what I can say, movies like Black Hawk Down, where these Black Hawk helicopters were shot by the Somali insurgents with RPGs,
Yeah.
hitting the
Yeah.
tail rotor specifically, and they just
Yeah, no. The helicopter is that's what is the most important part, which I did not tell you. Helicopter is the most vulnerable in battlefield conditions.
right.
And the only,
You're a
what should I
big and
say?
slow target.
That's what. And at low altitude,
Yeah.
that is one. But that low altitude helps you because you can merge with the terrain.
Hmm.
That is called nap of the earth flying.
Okay.
Means you go along the contours of the land.
Of the land, right.
You go, suppose you're flying right along the hillside, hill is climbing, you keep climbing like that, but just above that hill, just keeping
Okay.
clear of the hill, keeping clear of all the trees, which most important nowadays. When you're flying low and you're doing this map of the earth, there are millions of trees, there are millions of HT cables,
Right, right,
all
right.
these are
I was
running.
there, right.
We have to keep a track of all those things. The low flying in helicopter is, I
Difficult.
found it the best flying of my life.
Difficult and
Most
fast.
pleasurable flying is that. And the Mi-35, which is there, I've flown a little bit in Mi-35. That flies the most stable at low altitude. It is like, like rock steady, at whatever, that's why it's so good at. It's so steady because it's got the stub wings, Mi-35. And Mi-25 and Mi-35 very stable. And it's a pleasure. You can almost fly hands off. So nice. Whereas here you have to be on your toes. Mi-17 and Mi-8, low flying is good. But you got to be looking out for all these various obstructions. And then even these, updrafts and downdrafts also hit you.
Right.
Whereas that one is not, it doesn't get affected as easily as Mi-8 or Mi-17. Mi-4 was also good in its own way because it was a smaller aircraft. It used to get thrown around a lot
Right.
in turbulence. But otherwise, it was a good aircraft. In low flying, we flew a lot of low flying. That area in around Kumbigram, full of paddy fields.
Paddy
And
field,
we
right.
could just go along the paddy field, almost like touching the paddy field with
Which
the
had
wheel.
helped you a lot in the Sylhet operations.
Yes, that definitely, because we were flying low only, and we had to fly low. We couldn't fly high. But in Sylhet and Bangladesh operations, because we had air superiority, we were not scared of anything.
Right. That is
Except for maybe one day in Sylhet when they were partially active, but they never came anywhere. But if today they have to go anywhere, they will be there. Air Force will be active. The drones will be active. Anything can be there.
even drones are there.
Yeah, even another helicopter. Attack helicopter from that side.
Right.
So when we go for nowadays, when they go for airborne operation, they go with an escort of Mi-35.
Mi-35.
They all go. Yeah, Mi-35 will be there. That's how I went in one of the sorties like that.
I would like to know
Yeah.
about you raising a Mi-17 squadron and commanding it, sir.
Oh, that was the most challenging job I ever had in my life. Because I must tell you that before that, as I told you, I was in VIP squad till till September of 1988. I was in Com squadron, that is a VIP communication squadron at Palam,
Acha.
and there my posting came. I was originally to be posted to a unit in Jodhpur, which had, because since I was a VIP qualified pilot, the CO they wanted there should have been a VVIP qualified pilot. So
Okay.
they had one helicopter which was VVIP modified. So they had told me that you will be going there. But that last minute they said no, you are going to Udhampur
Acha.
and you are going to you will get a very challenging job of commanding, of raising a unit.
Acha.
I said, my God, raising a unit from scratch, and you in that place Udhampur at that time. Now it is connected by rail. At that time it was not connected by rail also, and we had to get a lot of equipment by train. It
Okay.
had to come from Delhi by road and by train and all that. So the base to collect was Jammu. So it was I mean, I reached Udhampur on October, I think 26th or something. On uh, and along with me, I was posted there as the CO. Along with me, I had a flight commander who was a squad leader. I was wing commander. I was squad leader, and there were 12, 10, 11 other pilots. Total strength of 13 pilots. And I'll cut a long story short. That we had 10 helicopters,
Acha.
13 pilots, and actually we should have had 20 pilots for 10 helicopters, 2 pilots per aircraft. But we had only 13 pilots,
Acha.
and we had 10 flight engineers and 10 gunners, which was the requirement for 10 helicopters.
Right.
But we were short
Enough
of pilots.
pilots.
We didn't have enough pilots. But we managed. I managed that unit for, I commanded the unit for 3 years and almost 8 months. A very long tenure. Normally, command tenure is only 2 years.
2 years.
But because I had to raise it from scratch, and not only that, I had to, within 1 month of my taking over, I had to go to, I had to go to Siachen to get cleared over there
Acha.
myself. Firstly, I had to do conversion on Mi-17. I was not converted on Mi-17. I did my basic conversion plus operational conversion on Mi-17 at Jammu from another instructor there. He converted me, and then I took that. I mean, I went along with this detachment of the other unit. There is one unit, another Mi-17 unit was there at Jammu. So now, as I was telling you, that we had a full strength of technicians, and we had a pilot officer as our pilot officer, the junior most officer,
At that
as
time,
my
this
chief,
rank was
as
still
my
there.
chief. Sorry.
At that time, the rank was still there, I guess. Pilot officer rank.
That time pilot officer was there. So this, I just have some water. Yeah. So this pilot officer, his name was Chakrapani.
Acha, acha.
He was a youngster, so he had to manage all these technicians, full strength of technicians. And we were deployed in Udhampur uh, on the taxi track, which was meant for NAT aircraft.
Net.
So you can imagine this taxi track with blast fans which were meant for NAT aircraft.
They are very
And in
small.
those, firstly, and that was completely, that area was full of trees.
Okay.
So those trees had to be chopped first.
Acha.
because that was so camouflage of that gnat,
Ha ha ha.
that trees were meant for that,
And you can't put a
and
helicopter there.
that was the operational location of that gnat squadron, which later on, of course, didn't come, but because we moved in there to Udhampur. So that was how so much challenging was our job. Apart from this being only 10 pilots, I mean 13 pilots and 10 aircraft. And 10 aircraft we had to ferry all those aircraft from Bombay.
Acha.
All 10 of them.
Bombay to
So
Udhampur.
because they came from by ship, and then they were like assembled over there, erected over there, and the Russians handed it over to us.
Okay.
And then from there we brought it to Udhampur. And then from there, I told you, after 1 month, I had to go to Siachen
Okay.
with the other unit, Jammu, to get cleared on the glacier. And then I came back after 15 days. And then the next month, that was January, in February they said they are now fully operational. They can fly. And they can do this detachment independent. So we took 4 aircrafts and went to 4 of those 10 aircrafts and went to that place, Thois.
Okay.
And Thois we had to go to base camp and operate from there. So we commenced our operations from that point onwards, from February of 1989. And you won't believe it. And that detachment was every alternate month was to be manned by us. Other month was manned by the helicopter units at Jammu. So we alternated like that. And then when we came back, the hours of the helicopter would finish,
Mm-hmm.
and that had to be put in for servicing. Now the servicing couldn't be done at Udhampur because there was no hangar. Nothing was there. We had only this taxi track. And one of the blast fans was made into a daily servicing point, because daily servicing has to be done on all helicopters. Then there is, as I told you, 25 hours there is one inspection, 50 hours there is one inspection, then again 75 hours, 100 hours. Like that, the cycle carries on.
Okay.
And the servicing for 25 hours, initially we couldn't do it at Udhampur. We had to fly the aircraft to Jammu.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jammu had the facility, they were formed before us. So then one detachment of our technicians used to be in Jammu. And the main body used to be in Udhampur.
Udhampur.
So like this, then subsequently we had to do 100 hours, 50 hours and 100 hours. That had to be done at Hindon.
Acha, acha.
So we had to ferry the aircraft to Hindon.
Acha. For flying.
And one detachment of technicians were left there.
Acha, acha.
So it was a Herculean task, I must tell you that. And we flew for a few months till May. And I have to thank my boss who was there, ex-boss, who was my flight commander in Comm Squad. He was controlling our helicopter operations in Western Air Command at Sugroto Park.
Acha, acha.
So firstly he got me attached there. But after I had got converted and all, he got me attached to command, and from there I could go to air headquarters and liaise with them what all I needed, for the unit. Because everything you have to do yourself, You have to get your own vehicles, your own support equipment, your stationery, everything, right up to the scratch. I told you, even stationery has to be collected from stationery store in Delhi.
Right, right.
Yeah, and all that is needed for running a unit. And I, by the way, am not even staff college qualified or any such qualification. And I was just an ordinary, squadron pilot, operational squadron pilot, who had, of course, the highest category in flying. But in administration, I was totally learning on the job.
Okay.
And I learned like that only. In the 3 years and whatever number of months I was there, I learned a lot, and I had to fly also a lot, because amongst these 13 pilots, I had one squad leader who was not a qualified flying instructor.
Okay.
So he also had to be, I mean, he had to do that right hand, that what we do. I told you, check pilot.
Mhm.
I was already a right hand check pilot, but he had to do that with the aircrew examining board. So he did that, got qualified. So before that, every month I had to go every month to that place to clear all these young pilots who were there with me to fly on the glacier. So I had to stay there almost full time.
Such a
And then I
difficult
had to do the
task.
work. It was quite a Herculean task. And then to top it all, this carried on till April. Then in May, they told me you have to go to Sri Lanka. So off I was. I went with 5 pilots and 2 aircraft to Sri Lanka. 6 pilots I had. Yeah.
This was for
And
the
I
LTT
operated from
operation.
Vagonia, from Siachen to Sri
Sri
Lanka.
Lanka. Yeah.
So I operated for 2 months in May and June of '89. I operated at a place called Vagonia.
Bavonia.
And that was 180 degrees opposite,
Right.
because it was at sea level flying, and it was all in thick jungles of that place.
Mm-hmm.
That Sri Lanka jungles are thick, and
Thick and deep.
LTT was all over the
The
place.
place, right?
Yeah, and we were landing on helipads which were on the beach. They were made out of a thing called duck board.
Acha, acha. Tugboat.
These duck boards are used for helipads in the desert and on sand.
Not sand. Acha, acha.
Yeah, so those helipads were made by the army. They were fit for operations, but it was intriguing and difficult type of flying. Because that kind of flying, and there also the navigation was by eye only, not by the map only.
I mean, I'm
There
wondering,
was
sir.
no aids for us, nothing.
Such a difficult task, yeah.
No,
Raising a
and
squadron
there were snipers all around. But luckily we didn't get hit by anyone. But they told us that just before we used to land, because what we were doing same, we were taking supplies for these troops. And they needed even fresh water we used to carry,
Acha.
drinking water. So we used to drop all those things. So it was quite a challenging task, very challenging. In fact, that for me that was next to the war in '71. This was of course, glacier was there, but this is a different kind of flying. And the temperatures were high. We were sweating a lot. The humidity is very
Very
high.
high.
Couldn't carry much of load. Load also reduces. So, but there the sorties were short. They were only 15, 20 minutes sortie. Even if you went right up to the extreme coast of Sri Lanka, Vagonia was in central Sri Lanka. And there were ports which were right along the coast.
Right.
And right up to Jaffna, you would have heard of Jaffna,
Right.
which
The
is
main
on
source
north.
of the problem of
Yeah.
humidity.
Yes.
Now, sir.
Luckily we.
Maybe.
No, that other operations was done by units at Coimbatore, where the helicopters were shot up.
Now, sir, I would like to know.
That was Mi-8, of course, not Mi-7.
Now,
Yeah.
sir, I would like to know about the number of sorties you did and the total flying hours as a pilot of the Mi-17 for you.
Mi-17, I have flown about 2,300 hours of flight. It's about around 500 odd of night flying
500
by night.
flying only.
Yeah. In Mi-8 also I have flown quite a lot of night flying.
Right.
Because we used to ferry at night, sometimes ferry the aircraft. So I told you, especially on VIP commitments, we used to ferry by night. To reach by daytime, we are available for flying the next day. We couldn't fly VIP at night, but we could position at night. That was allowed. So, in 1 month, during '84 elections, I flew 100 hours.
Okay. In 1 month.
That was in '84, yeah. '84 December. And that was all in Kerala. 100 hours.
Right.
So it was, and Kerala helipads are very tricky. They are very small, and they are all, in thick jungle and thick, what should I say, coconut palm area, and we had to land two and three helicopters. We had to just fit them in one inside the other. It was almost like one inside the other.
Right. Right.
So three aircraft had to go, three or four aircraft, depending on the prime minister's whatever his requirement was. They normally used to carry a lot of other equipment, other things, with NSG and all. They were our, like, along. They were the baggage helicopters.
Right.
Um,
That's really nice, sir. Talking to you about the Mi-17 and getting to know something.
and after that, I commanded one more. No, this
Mhm.
this one I raised 3.5 years. I was the
And
CO.
was the squadron you commanded of Mi-17s?
Yeah, that was at Hindon.
Hindon. Acha,
That's where I used to send my aircraft for servicing.
acha, 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 acha.
I commanded that as a group captain.
Okay.
Uh, so that was another long story. Yeah, I can only tell you operationally I flew during that time
Mm-hmm.
when I was in Hindon.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I'd done these flypass,
Mm-hmm.
two Republic Day flypass,
Right, right.
and I did two Airforce Day flypass.
Acha, acha.
Apart from that, I flew this. There was a SARC meet in Simla. So from Chandigarh to Simla, we had we had 5-6 helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
The VVIPs, all the heads of state. So that task was also given to me. So that also I had done. So that was the main. Otherwise, we were like standby for Comm Squadron, where we could not do a sortie to a higher altitude. Then Mi-17 used to do that. So that also I was tasked. And I was commanding this unit.
Lovely, lovely.
Besides, I did one code of inquiry of a Mi-35 accident. So anyway, that's a long story.
That's wonderful.
And-
Wonderful of an experience of flying such a very popular aircraft that is, I think, still in service in a different
Yeah.
version, of course.
Yeah, different version and a very sophisticated version.
Right.
And what should I say? It's, they're doing a tremendous job all over India. I mean, now Mi-17s are there all over.
Right.
So, tremendous job they're doing, and hats off to them.
To the pilots and to the machine itself.
Yes, machine. First salute the machine because they, trouble-free, almost trouble-free. There have been very few incidents. They were, as I told you, in Mi-8 there were a lot of problems, but Mi-17 did not have. They are finding problems now in the old version of the Mi-7. It is still there in some units.
Acha, acha.
They are not yet converted all into V5. So those ones are facing problems now of engines and all. And spares will always be a problem because Ukraine, is from where, though of course Russia is also making, but main manufacturer was Ukraine.
Ukraine, right.
So that will remain.
Thank you, sir. For
So
such
thank
a-
you Devu, for giving me this honor of speaking
It's your
at
machine,
length
sir.
about my
It's your
challenges.
machine, and it's-
Yeah, I know that. Yes, I was very proud of it, both, and very proud of commanding two of the prime units of Mi-17, yeah, which operated in Siachen one and the other in Delhi and Hindon, which is also a prime location. I missed my flying today, as you know. Today was World Pilots Day.
Right.
Yeah, so it gave me also a great boost to speak to you on World Pilots Day.
Absolutely, sir. I would like to wish you as well. Thank you for your services, sir. Thank you.
No, not at all, Devu. Welcome always. So thank you, Devu,
Thank
once
you,
again.
sir. Thank you. And all the best.
Thank you. All the good day.
Good day.